Hello guys, and how you're doing? So I'm welcoming you to this amazing video, and in this video today I am going to be taking you through the first management practice or the first routine practice you are supposed to carry out on your commercial plantain field after setup. In this video we are going to be showing you things you must do. It's a must you to carry out this very practice in order to get the right plant population. The right plant population ensures that you get the right yield at the end of the day. And the purpose of setting up a field is to get the right yield so that you can make the right amount from a specific land area. So in this very video, I am going to be taking you through all the maintenance practices that you must carry out after your setup. And this should happen within the first 2 months after setup. So we are carrying out this operation after about 6 weeks after setup. The reason why you have to carry out this is you want to ensure that the plant, the difference in terms of the growth rate from one plant to another is not so wide apart. Now you have to bear in mind that when you set up, when you plant, you are not going to have 100% germinability. No, you are not going to have that. You could have about 95%, you could have 90%, which is totally fine. So when this happens, so are you then going to leave those empty spaces you have in between where your suckers, the corm of the plantain comes, or the suckers you planted at those points didn't get to germinate? Are you going to leave them out? You obviously ain't going to be leaving them out. And the reason why I said you don't have to wait for so long before you carry out this operation, it should be within the first 2 months after you set up, is so that if there's any place you need to replace, and if there's any also stand you need to thin out a certain sucker, you need to desucker certain holes where you are probably having more than one sucker, which is very possible because in the course of planting, your planters or your guys could have made mistake and put two suckers in a hole, or you might have a sucker sprouting at two different points. All these are possibilities that would happen during the course of your setup. So after you have set up, you give it about 6 weeks. By then your field would have sprouted and then they would have been evident. Or you can go further to give it about 2 months, which is about 8 weeks, for your field to properly sprout. At that point in time, you would have given the plantain corm, enough time to germinate. So the ones that will germinate would have germinated, and the ones that probably decayed in the course of it wanting to germinate would have also decayed. So at this point in time, you will then carry out the operation I am going to be showing you, and this operation is what we refer to as the thinning, okay, and supply. Okay, so you supply in areas where the suckers are missing, you thin out or you desucker from holes that have more than one plantain plant growing from that point. Looking at what we have here now, you realize that we have some missing point here. This guy didn't sprout, and then also at that point it didn't sprout. So what we are going to do now is to ensure that we supply at this point. So what we're going to do real quick is to begin to dig out those holes and then begin to supply them with suckers. And that is what this guy is doing at this point in time. So this is literally what we have done all through the field. We have been going around to see that all places where suckers are missing are being supplied. So the reason and the essence of doing this is so that we have the right plant population on this field. Okay, our target is to have 4,000 suckers on this field, and we are definitely going to be ensuring that we get the 4,000 suckers. Question is, what if I do not have enough suckers to supply? What if I didn't make provision for suckers that I would then use to supply? Okay, so and that is why you need an expert for your field setup. During setup, we always make provision for these supplies. We have an understanding that you are not going to have 100% germinability or germination of your sucker. So in that situation, in that instance, we usually keep aside certain number of suckers depending on the number of areas we are setting up. We keep those suckers aside and then we set up the field. So the reason why we keep these suckers aside is so that we can use these suckers to replace. This is it. When you keep these corms aside, Now what happens is, as this other field, as the field you've cultivated is germinating and growing, those ones you kept aside are also germinating and growing at the same time. So what that means is, when you then eventually introduce during your supplying, during the maintenance practice, after your setup, you are now making these supplies to this field. Okay, it's not going to be so far apart because they are all growing at the same rate. So eventually they are going to be of the same age group. That is usually what happens. So I'm then also going to show you reason plantains do not mature all at the same time. So this is the simple explanation to why plantains do not mature all at the same time. The simple explanation to this is that your plantain suckers do not all begin to sprout at the same time. Okay, so this is a typical example. These guys were planted on the same day, and then if you pay attention to this guy and this guy, you see that there's disparity in the size. Okay, now reason why there's disparity in the size is because they all sprouted at different times. Okay, probably this one sprouted few days after it was planted, and this one had to wait a couple of weeks before it started sprouting. Okay, and for that reason, this guy is going to be ahead of this guy. A couple of persons have called in and they're like, should have I cultivated at the same time, why am I not harvesting at the same time? You're not harvesting at the same time because your plantains didn't all start germinating or growing all at the same time. Okay, they started growing at different times, though you planted them on the same day. So the next question is, how can I avoid this? You can't avoid it. The only way you can avoid, or the only thing you can do, is to ensure that you probably use an already sprouted sucker. You use sprouted suckers instead of sucker combs. Okay, you use the seedlings instead of the comb to cultivate. Even if you use the comb, they are still not gonna all mature at the same time. Reason being, you also have areas on the field that has more nutrients than certain areas. So that is what we refer to as the nutrient variability across the field. So you don't have every point of the field having equal amount of nutrients. So because of these factors, you are then going to have various growth rates for your plantain suckers. But then know that the ones that sprouted early would always mature first, and then you begin to harvest those ones first. And that is the reason why you are not going to be having 100% harvest during your first harvest, but you are going to be having about 30 to 40% within your first harvest. And that is the simple reason why it happens that way. So the next operation we are also going to be doing is thinning. Let me show you. If you go through this field, you'll realize that there are certain suckers, or there are certain holes that the suckers sprouted, that you are having more than one sucker sprouting. Okay, I'm going to show you. Okay, I am going to show you. For instance, if you pay attention to what you're having here, this is having 3 sprouts. Okay, but we ain't going to allow these 3 to grow all together. We're going to take out 2 and then use the remaining 2 to supply in places where we are having missing suckers. Now, the reason this could happen is as a result of the comb. Now the plantain comb sprouting at different points. So if it sprouts at different points, it means it's going to have different plant growing forth. And of course it's a good thing, because you can always uproot from those points. You thin now, or you desucker, and then you bring them to places where the suckers didn't get to sprout out. So look at another good example of what I'm trying to explain. If you pay attention here, you'll see that we have triple sprouts here. Now the question is, which one are we going to leave, which one are we going to dig out? So in this case, this is the most vigorous one, and that is the one you are going to be leaving out. So we are going to be taking out these 2. Okay, these 2 that are not as vigorous as this is the first to sprout, and that is why it is the most grown. If you pay attention, we still have other ones. Okay, but this is the one we are going to leave to maintain this stand, and then we will be uprooting these 2 and they'll be taken to other points. Okay, After we're done with this operation, the next operation we are going to be carrying out will be the application of manure. So what is the operation we are firstly going to be carrying out? So the first thing you want to do before you apply your manure is you want to ensure you desucker or you thin out the holes that have more than one sucker. You ensure that you have one sucker per stand, okay, across the field. So after you've been able to achieve that, the next thing you want to do is you then supply in areas where you did not have sucker sprouting out from. You supply from those points that are having more than one sucker, and you also supply from the reserve you must have kept out during the setup to use for the replacement. So that is the first operation. So after now, the next operation we are going to be carrying out is the application of manure, and this has to be a routine management. When something we say something is a routine management practice, it has to be something you do on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, on a maybe on a bi-weekly basis. Every 2 weeks you carry out this operation, or every month you carry out this operation to ensure that your field is growing vigorously and is coming out great. We do not want excuses at the end of the day, and that is what we are ensuring, that everything is done right. So I'm going to be taking you to seeing how the manual application will be carried out, and we cannot wait to get started. So we are going to be applying the manure, and you are going to be seeing how to go about with the manure. So for this field, we are going to be doing a combination of organic and then inorganic manure. We are going to be doing about 80% organic manure and about 20% inorganic manure to ensure that this field comes out great at the end of the day. So guys, let's dive in and let me show you quickly what we are going to be doing. So first thing first is to ensure that your field is well weeded. Even before you start with all of this operation, ensure that your field is well weeded. Second thing is you want to ensure you are getting a quality inorganic fertilizer. So this is an example of an inorganic fertilizer, and the one we are using here is NPK 15 15 15. So how do you avoid getting fake fertilizer? Ensure you are getting fertilizers from well-known brands, okay, brands with integrity. The next thing you want to ensure you do is you get your organic manure, and your organic manure has to be an organic manure that has undergone the composition. So how do you know your organic manure has undergone decomposition? It does not have presence of maggot in it, and it does not smell. So the next thing is your mixture ratio. Your mixture ratio is dependent on what you want. Here we are using about 70% organic manure and 20% inorganic fertilizer. So depending on what you want and then what you want for your field. So we are more concerned about, using more of organic manure on this field, okay? And that is what we're doing, about 80% organic and about 30% in organic. So after you mix thoroughly, then you would begin to apply. Now you need to pay attention to your application. You must ensure that this application, this manure, now that this combination you have is not coming in contact with the stem. It is not the stem that utilizes the manure, so you have to ensure that the root is where the manure or this combination is applied to. You have to ensure you give a distance of about 10 centimeter from the stem to where you are going to be applying your manure, okay? And that is what we are currently doing here. And you ensure you are applying it in the region where the roots of your plantains are present. So you have to ensure you apply it in areas where the roots of your plantains are present, because it is the root that then absorb the nutrient present in this manure. It is the root that then absorb the nutrient present in this. So don't be too focused on trying to allow the manure come in contact with the stem, because in cases where you have more of the inorganic fertilizer, it will end up pulling the stem off your still very tender plant. As you can see, you give it about 8 to 10 centimeters away from the stem of your plantain, and then you apply your manure, okay? As you can see, after application you cover it up to avoid leaching or washing away. So guys, we just demonstrated how you get to mix the fertilizer. What we use is a 70 to 30% ratio. 70% of organic manure to 30% or 20% in some cases inorganic manure. Okay, literally what we do it is the inorganic manures are released to the plant and then they are readily available. So what that means is within a couple of days, the inorganic is already released and it's no longer available. And that is at that point that the organic manure then take up from the inorganic and then slowly releases its nutrient to the plant. So everything is not all available boom at once to the plant, and the plant is able to absorb them gradually. So that's the reason why we use this combination, and you can as well implement it on your field. So basically you need to manage your field well. That is the only way you get quality result at the end of the day. You need to manage your field well. You need to ensure that you are doing the right things. Okay, you have to do the right things in order to get the right result. There are no magics to farming. Okay, it's just proper planning and then proper maintenance management practices, and ensure you are always going round and round. This operation is a continuous operation until you harvest. Even after you've harvested, it's a routine maintenance practice. Simply means you do it on a regular basis, okay, depending on the interval you want to be carrying out this operation. So guys, that was what we did. So after this, next week we are then going to be applying a treatment to the suckers, because a couple of the suckers have been infested by grasshoppers. Really, a couple of insects are really eating up the succulent leaves, and we don't want that to continue. So we are going to be applying some treatments to ensure that these this barbaric act by the insect come to an end. So we are going to be applying this treatment to ensure that this insects are taken care of and are killed and driven out of the field, whatever the case may be. So we don't want them eating up our leaves, and so that the plant can properly carry out photosynthesis and help them grow really vigorously. So that was it, guys. We need to draw the curtain at this point. So for a lot of you who want to purchase suckers, all you need to do real quick is send us a WhatsApp message. Send a message and tell us what you want, the quantity, your location, anywhere you are in Nigeria, even across the country. We are going to have the suckers brought to you, to your farm. Okay, so all you need to do is book ahead and we would handle the rest. And if you still want to set up your commercial field and you want Chidav Agricultural Hub to come get that done for you professionally the best possible way, all you need to also do is send a DM, tell us what you want and then the number of areas of your land, and then if we need to come do an evaluation, we would come and have your field set up and also help you manage your field to ensure that you get quality results at the end of the day. So guys, it's been an amazing time on the field. We have to go now. See you in our next video. Bye for now. Peace. Just before we go, if this is your first time coming across this channel, Chidav Agricultural Hub, all you need to do real quick is to punch on the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell, and do what, like this video. See you in our next video, guys. Peace.